Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. It is almost here. Yes, it's almost here. The June 7th primary for many important elected offices here in the state of New Mexico. And we here on Issues and Answers at KCHF TV and invited many candidates for various offices. And those who have accepted, we are introducing them to you right on our program. We're not just giving them a couple minutes, but a whole half hour to explain to you why they're running for office, what they would like to do on your behalf, and what makes them qualified. I'm so pleased to have with us today Laura Montoya. She is running for the state treasurer's position in the Democratic ticket in this June 7th primary. Laura has a vast amount of experience. We're going to share with you all of her background. She was born in Las Vegas, New Mexico. She was the two-term Sandoval County treasurer. She has a master's degree from Highlands University. She worked for tribal government, federal government, state government, and so much more. So please stay with us as KCHF TV and Issues and Answers introduces you to Laura Montoya and why she wants to run for state treasurer, what her experience is, and actually, what does a state treasurer do? We'll find out from Laura right after this. Stay with us.
The National Education Association of New Mexico, a union of teachers and school staff, believes every child deserves to learn at a school that inspires their imagination, cultivates their curiosity, and ensures a fulfilling life. Public schools should provide all our students with small class sizes and one-on-one attention. NEA New Mexico asks you to join us so together we can end the teacher and staff shortage and invest in our public education system once and for all. Sponsored by NEA New Mexico.
We're back, and we're going to introduce you right now to Laura Montoya. She's running for state treasurer, and we're going to talk about her philosophy about investing our money, taxpayers' money, considering safety, liquidity, and then yield. So we're going to find out about Laura. She's so pleased to be here, and we're so happy to have you here, Laura.
It's wonderful to see you again.
Your background is very vast for a young woman. You were one of the youngest women elected to an office. Tell me a little bit about that, Laura.
Sure. So in 2012, I ran for Sandoval County Treasurer. I live in Rio Rancho now, though I was born and raised in Las Vegas, and my family is from Mora and San Miguel County. And so I moved to Rio Rancho after I was working with the state treasurer's office and decided to run, and was elected as one of the youngest females in New Mexico and also in the United States.
Congratulations on that.
Thank
That's exciting. No wonder you have such a big, broad smile. And now you're running actually not just for a county treasurer, but a state treasurer office. And we're going to find out from you what a state treasurer does. But let's talk a little bit more about your background. Sandoval County, you invested a lot of money, I think $50 million in non-property tax dollars and maybe $40 million in property tax dollars. That's a lot of money. So what does a state treasurer do, and what did you do as a county treasurer?
Okay, so I think the functions are very similar. I like to make it very simplified for people, because usually when they talk taxes are like, I don't want to talk about it. So it's very simple: protect, collect, invest, distribute, and report. 5 functions.
Again?
Protect. So I protected over $50 million in non-property tax revenue. We collected over $1.2 billion in property taxes with the 99.37% collection rate. Which is really important, because then everyone is paying more fair across the board. So protect, collect, invest. I invested over $40 million on behalf of Sandoval County. You have to distribute the money every single month that comes in from the property taxpayers to all of those entities that they agreed to pay, like our schools and our hospitals, municipalities. And then the last part is to report. You report it every single month. You have a treasurer's report. You also report to the Board of Finance. And those same functions are similar in the state treasurer's office. The Board of Finance is different because it's hosted as the chair of the governor of the state of New Mexico, but it's the same functionalities. We had several clean audits. We were able to help with a lot of outreach programs. We were able to pass over 21 legislative bills as part of me being the legislative chair for the treasurer's affiliate. I was was also on the national level a vice chair of finance, pension, and intergovernmental affairs. And I really wanted to be the best at what I did. And so we have over 600 credit hours in finance, business management, economics, leadership, and training, so that I could be as equipped as possible to really serve not only Sandoval County, but my state. And now that really tied into being the state treasurer.
Sometimes people say the state treasurer's like the state bank. What do they mean
Yes.
by that? Tell me a little bit about
Sure.
that it affects not just Santa Fe, not just Bernalillo County, but the entire state.
Yes, all of the state's money is managed by the state treasurer's office. So you are the banker for the state. And it's very important that you have good, clean audits, that you have transparency, that you have accountability, you have updated cash handling processes, both indirectly, and directly within the office. So you really are the state's banker.
When we talk about being a banker, like let's say the city of Hobbs, does any money going to the city of Hobbs comes first to the state and then it goes back to the city of Hobbs?
Yes,
For
I'm
police
so
protection,
happy.
fire protection, how does that work?
So I'm happy you asked that, because we help counties, municipalities, and tribal governments with the local government investment pool. So basically what that pool does is it allows for, let's say you're from Mora County. You don't have as much money as Bernalillo County does have. So $427 million from Bernalillo County, they need to diversify their portfolio. Mora does too, but they only have $1 million. So let's say they put $500,000 in, and Bernalillo County puts
Into this fund?
into this pool. And what it does is it allows them to all together have a better rate of return, so that the money that goes back to Mora is significant enough for them to do what they need to do with it, whether it's they decide to help with the senior center or fixing roads or helping with school projects, whatever their projects are, they'll have a better rate of return. The second reason why it's so important is because it allows for you to diversify. You never want to put all your eggs in one basket. And so a lot of smaller communities will use their bank, they'll use CDs, and then that's pretty much it. And so this local government investment pool allows for skilled investment professionals to be able to invest their money, give them a report every single month of where their money is at, how much money they've earned, and it's very inexpensive.
What percentage do you think of the responsibility of the state treasurer, Laura, is in the investment component? Because I think kind of a little, I know about the state treasurer, you collect all the the state taxes come into the state treasurer's office or into their account. But they have to pay out, they have to pay state employees, they have to pay for road construction, they have to pay various things. What percentage of the duties would be the investment component, would you say?
So the investment team is a very critical aspect of the treasurer's office. There's other teams of investors within the state as well, and the treasurer is a board member on those. For example, the State Investment Council. So they have more high risk that they can invest in than what the treasurer's office can. The treasurer's office invests in something that is super safe. It's based off of 61010 NMSA, so mortgage-backed securities, treasuries, agencies. We just got a new bill passed about 3 years ago where we added in supranationals and commercial paper A1P1. It sounds like a lot of, it's complex, but at the same time, it allows for diversification within the portfolio that you manage, but safety at the forefront. You have to make sure that all of your brokers and dealers are approved by the State Treasurer's Investment Committee, and that everything is up to par on your monthly reports. They have meetings on a quarterly basis. It's very transparent. And that the state treasurer is on several different boards. And it's really important for people to know that, because it's the State Board of Finance, which I believe is one of the most powerful boards, the State Investment Council, and then para and ERB, your public education retirement, if you're a state employee or if you're an educator, your retirement, everything you've worked for is decided upon a board, and the treasurer is also a member of that board.
What gives you the confidence to run for state treasurer? What in your background gives you that confidence?
Well, I have a master's degree in public affairs. I also have my certification in my Treasury official certification, my public official, and my public manager certification. and then again 600 credit hours of investing. When I was the county treasurer, I did the job. I invested for the people, and we did really well, not only on our investment portfolio when rates were really low, because when I was elected, the housing market had just crashed, so we were still building up. And then we went to a point where we had rates really high at 1.49%, and then the pandemic hit and rates dropped again. And I was able to really learn and experience in a different rate environment and be able to adapt to that so that we could be best prepared for making sure that our taxpayer dollars are secured. And we did that. We never lost a penny of taxpayer dollars, and we really had other things that were important involved, like our banking contract that helped save us a lot of money too.
You have a philosophy to do the investing, and I mentioned at the beginning of the program, safety, number one, then liquidity, and then yield. Tell me a little bit about that philosophy.
Yes, so it's actually in state statute, safety, liquidity, and yield, and it's really important because these are your hard-earned tax dollars. So we want to make sure that they are always safe first, and then when you're making the decisions on what you want to invest in, not always chasing a rate of return or the yield. And so you also need to make sure you have liquidity because let's say, for example, a pandemic hits, or something even more common where a commission needs to pay for something that they didn't expect, like a water line that broke in a senior center. They can put the money in the local government investment pool, and they can literally take it out within the next day, between 24 and 48 hours. That allows for that liquidity, cash on hand, for them to be able to be solvent and to use it for what they need.
You probably know, Laura, years ago, but within our history, there were two treasurers who were convicted of crimes, of embezzling money and stealing money, which sounds like, how can that even happen? But we saw videos of actually sacks of money being exchanged. What about transparency and concern that happened in the past, which is, almost unimaginable that it could happen?
You really brought up a good point. Transparency is critical in any office, but when you're managing funds, especially other people's money, you really need to have safeguards in place. So after that occurrence happened, the governor at the time, which was Bill Richardson, put a committee together. The chair was Kim Sanchez-Rayel, and that committee put Douglas Minch Brown as the treasurer until the new election came in where James B. Lewis had won. I worked under Douglas Minch Brown and worked on that transition. I assisted as the primary person for the FBI investigation. And I tell you all of that because with Doug Minch Brown, he really helped get the cash handling procedures that needed to be in place so that there was a better checks and balances all the way around. And I also got to see when government disappointed the people and when public trust was lost. And so I never would want that to happen under my watch. So when I was the county treasurer, I made sure we looked at all of our internal procedures first, developed and strengthened them to make sure we're all on the same page. Everyone signs every year before our new annual report comes out what procedures that we need to update or what we needed to make sure we remember every year that we need to be doing. And that's what really geared us up to have clean audits.
Very good. Thank you for that. Yeah, it is heartbreaking. Even the president of the House recently, who worked for APS, representative, she was charged with embezzling, I think, $5 million. I mean, this just isn't a recent history like last year, the year before. So it's just heartbreaking that it can still continue.
Wherever you work, you have to have good checks and balances. So for example, I would never touch cash as the county treasurer, which people would think that doesn't make sense. It really does because I reconcile the funds. So you have to make sure you have two people. For example, we have one person that has a key, the other one has a code. So you need two people in order to even get into the vault. And those types of things are really important when you're reconciling or when you're managing any type of funds, especially when they're not your own.
Yeah, they are ours. You, as the county treasurer for Sandoval County for 2 terms, were on a tax committee, I believe, through the legislature, and you mentioned a number of pieces of legislation. I read about one, and that was expanding eligibility freeze on property tax assessments.
For our seniors.
Tell me a little bit about that.
That would probably help.
Expanding the eligibility, who could receive a property tax
freeze, a value freeze. Yes.
Is it an assessment or an exemption, or what is that?
So it's a value freeze. So let's say
value freeze.
Let's pretend you're
freeze is good.
Let's pretend you're 65 years of age or older, and you have an income of, at that time it was $32,000. You would be able to go into the assessor's office, show them the proof, and then you could freeze your value. So if your value of your property was $100,000, you get assessed 1/3 of that. So it's $33,000, right? You also in New Mexico get a head of household if it's your primary residence of $2,000. So 33 minus the 2,000, you're at 31. Well, your income doesn't usually go up statistically after the age of 65. And so what we were saying is that with inflation, with the increase in valuations, their income's not going up. It's going to be harder for them to be able to stay in their homes, especially a lower income bracket of our senior citizens. And so what we did, because it hadn't been done in a long time, is we worked with our legislators and we were able to get, in a bipartisan way, Democrats and Republicans, the House and the Senate, to come together to increase that value freeze number from 32, I think it's to 35 or 37, but it adds a consumer price index. So based on what the market is for every year, you don't have to go back to the legislature to fix it. The Tax and Revenue Department looks at it, assesses and evaluates it, and then lets you know what that number, that magic number is going to be for our senior citizens.
And why was that so important to you to work on when you were the Sandoval County Treasurer? Why was that so important?
Because I would see our senior citizens that come in and they work really hard, and they would literally sometimes have to decide between their prescriptions and our medical bills and then paying their property taxes. And so you really have to be the voice for the most vulnerable populations and make sure that when we're looking at our tax structure or property taxes, that it's both fair and equitable, and that we're not kicking anyone out of their homes, but making it easier for them to be able to have a home and a piece of property to call their own.
Thank you for that, Laura. As State Treasurer, you're interested in strengthening financial literacy.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I love that. So when I was working in the Treasurer's office, I realized how many people really don't know or understand the simple things in finances, even in our high schools. And so I started researching it and realizing we don't have a mandatory financial literacy core curriculum class for people to graduate. And New Mexico is 47th in the United States in financial literacy. And so when you have things like predatory lending attached with not having the understanding of your financial structure, you're really putting working families in a predicament that they might end up having ruined their credit, or they might not be able to have the same opportunities to grow their financial stability after the age of 18. And so whether or not you join the workforce, decide to have a family, or go to college or community college, we wanted to make sure that people were prepared. You know, I manage billions of dollars, but back in high school, I had no idea, even though I was in calculus by the 11th grade, how to take care of a financial budget within my bank. And so my banker, she was such a wonderful lady, Nora Ortega. She's since passed from cancer, but she's the one who called me in and said, I'm going to show you how to be able to do this correctly so that you can figure it out for yourself. And once
that's just balancing your checkbook.
Yes, balancing the check, but just something so simple as that.
Yeah.
But can you imagine in the classroom a fixed rate versus a variable rate? Knowing how to have a monthly budget, knowing how to save. What is a stock? You know, back then I thought stocks were for older white people. I had no idea it was for everybody to be able to utilize, and it's actually a lot of fun to play in it.
When it goes up. It's not so fun when it's going down there, Laura.
Yes.
Montoya. So what are you hoping to do? Have this as a requirement? Work as the state treasurer, that financial literacy is a requirement for graduates?
Yeah, so I was working with our legislators. Representative Mo Maestas and Representative Willie Madrid had a bill last year that they were trying to get it in as a core.
I think New Mexico might be working on this as well.
We are, and so
Nathan,
the governor, because it was a 30-day session, the governor said it was a short session, but she got PED, Public Education Department, to start working on a core curriculum, not just in middle school and high school, but K through 12. And so I was super excited about that. We still got to get it in the legislation, but if Public Education Department is already working on that, it's wonderful.
No, it just makes sense. I mean, finances rule our lives in so many aspects, not just getting a car loan or a house mortgage or paying your rent or buying food, but you're right. Kids need to be, I mean, that's just practical things they certainly need to learn. What else would you like to share with the audience that I haven't touched upon? Laura Montoya, who's running for state treasurer in this June 7th primary as a Democrat. What would you like to share?
Well, I would definitely like them to look at our website. It's lauramontoya4nm.com, and we have our handle at Laura M4NM for anyone who would like to follow us on Instagram or social media. I'm from a rural community, and I've had the best of both worlds, where I've learned how all of us as a small community have to come together in order to make ends meet. And I've also worked in a city where we were the first county that put solar panels on our buildings so that we can be able to have better sustainability and save money for our taxpayers. I am very concerned about bridging the gap of inequity between rich and poor, between the haves and the have-nots, between the rural and the urban. And I feel that a lot of people are disengaged, even in voting, because they don't really feel that the representation doesn't reflect them. And so I want people to know that representation should reflect who you are and what you value. And I'm hoping when you look at my story, my life, my family, that you will see that I align with your values and with service, and that I do have a heart of service and would be a great treasure for you.
You mentioned, what do you mean bridging the gap between the haves and have-nots? Taking what the haves have and giving it to the have-nots? What do you mean by that?
Yes, well, I think our tax policy structure needs work, because part of the 5 structures within taxes is that they're supposed to be fair and equitable. But a lot of times we don't do that in how we structure things. And so it's not that some people, working families, aren't working hard. Some of them are working 2 and 3 jobs. But when you're working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, to put food on your table, then you can't get as engaged in your community or in holding your elected officials accountable. There needs to be a bridge of gapping of that gap to be closer in, because at the end of the day, I mean, economics 101, if you don't have a strong middle class, your government can fail and fall. And so it's important that we sustain a strong working family, a middle class that has good working wages, good health conditions at their work, and that.
And how would we do that, Laura? And what's your opinion?
Part of it is the education, making sure we have people that are educated in finances a lot better than what we have in the past, that we're not 47th anymore in the United States on that. There's also policy like property taxes, gross receipts taxes, working on our tax structure. And then there's also this idea of maybe looking at a state bank. You know, what can that do for us, investing in New Mexico, so that we can bridge that gap and hopefully not be on the list of all the bad things, but start working towards the good.
As a state treasurer, what input would you have regarding this? It sounds like the
Quite a
state
bit.
legislature would be doing this and the governors would be doing it, but what about state treasurer?
Well, as county treasurer, they thought I couldn't do a lot. And a lot of people didn't want to get involved. And look, at 8 years later, we got 21 bills passed. They helped our veterans. They removed tax loopholes. It saved millions of dollars. You need to have a working relationship with your governor. And I've worked with both a Democrat governor and a Republican governor and still got 21 bills passed. Our House, our Senate, bipartisan, and most of the bills I've worked on have worked together to get those things taken care of. So there's that portion. There's transparency and accountability. There's making sure that you know how to manage and invest funds and not expect just your staff to do the work. You have to do the work too. And all of the boards and commissions that the treasurer is on are fundamental to the way people live their lives, whether you're a teacher or you're a state employee or you're working as a business person.
Very good. I read on your website that you're also interested in expanding the office of the treasurer to its fullest potential. What did you mean by that? Expanding, is that growing state government, or what is your opinion on that?
Well, I don't necessarily think having to grow it with more employees. I think it's utilizing the employees you have and prioritizing what's important to you. So for example, for me, when I worked for U.S. Senator Jeff Bingaman, that's when I learned outreach was critical. especially in your smaller rural communities. When I was county treasurer for Sandoval, I really expanded outreach programs. And now for the state treasurer's office, I want to expand the outreach that we have to make sure that people really know about the ABLE program that helps people with disabilities, that people know about the local government investment pool, and that county treasurers or city municipal treasurers and government, they know we'll be there to help them, or tribal government, because they all can participate in that pool, but maybe they're not aware of it, or they don't know it's as safe as it should be because of what had happened in years past.
Ah, very good. To the average New Mexican who's not a government official, a mayor, not in the county commissioner, how does the state treasurer's office affect them?
It should affect them in a much more positive way by working together, having trainings to make sure that all of our counties and cities are following the same guidelines to have really good, clean audits, working together to see if we can get a better rate of return on their money, just as much as the state's money, so that it filters back into the communities.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to, you worked for tribal government, state, federal, you said with Senator Jeff Bingaman. What did you do for the tribal government?
Oh, we've done quite a bit. So more recently, we've worked on fracking issues to make sure that we have clean water in Sandoval County. And now just this year, we were very disappointed in the Sandoval County Commission trying to silence the voice of Native communities, rural communities, and Latino people in our county. And so that gerrymandering that occurred, we're trying to fight that now.
Oh, well, you've got a lot on your plate.
Oh,
what,
I forgot to tell you.
Yeah, what, Laura?
All the PPE and the food and water that we did during the pandemic, a lot of us worked together. The governor let us use those big military trucks, and we got people from all of our communities in the state. We had 350 mask makers. Operation Bandana New Mexico was a partner with me, and we went through several Navajo chapters and pueblos to give out food and water, as well as some of our small rural communities. It's all about us all working together and helping each other, because if some are failing, we're all failing.
You rolled up your sleeves, didn't you there, Laura Montoya? Since 2020, I think your term ended with Sandoval County. What have you been doing?
I'm an independent contractor, so I still teach elected officials and then county and city employees on items dealing with finances with New Mexico Edge, which is connected to New Mexico State University. I really enjoy doing that because you get to see the excitement of people learning and then growing and building relationships from different counties or cities, and then they get to call each other and ask for help. They feel like they have a better partnership. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to know who to call to help you, and they've probably gone through it and they can help guide you as well. So it's really teamwork makes the dream work. We're all in it together.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you. Laura Montoya, thank you so much for being on this program and for running. We appreciate all candidates who are willing to roll up their sleeves and make New Mexico a better place. So thank you for that.
Thank you for everything you do to make sure our audience and our people in New Mexico know about these important functions. It's very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Laura. And thanks KCHF TV for bringing you this program, Issues and Answers. I am Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, it helped me pay for my house. Being part-time really helped because I could have some opportunities that were still in education.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.